revolution, Facebooking the revolution, videotaping the revolution.
A new world driven by new media.
This is a very peculiar moment in media history.
Nobody can force me in 2011 to watch whatever I don't want to watch.
Analyzing the media's role in shaping modern history. The Listening Post, at this time on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. These are the top stories we're following on Al Jazeera. Libyan state television has broadcast an appearance by Muammar Gaddafi before crowds in Tripoli's Green Square. Pro-government supporters rallied in the capital on Sunday. Gaddafi's forces managed to win back Bin Jawad in the center of the country, but elsewhere, both close to the capital and in the east, rebel fighters held their positions in bloody battles. And in Egypt, security forces have broken up a crowd of protesters who were trying to get access to the Ministry of Interior in Cairo. Men in plain clothes armed with knives, petrol bombs and bricks also clashed with protesters. More on Libya and the fighting across the country. Here's Stephanie Decker.
Celebrations in Misurata. This internet video claims the town remains firmly in opposition control, and some of the casualties of that battle. Another video appears to show dead pro-Gaddafi fighters. But the government maintains they are making gains in the east of the country.
Today, what happened in Misrata, one of the brigades took the repositioned and didn't want to engage in the fighting. And despite that, the locals managed to capture 37 of the militia groups.
It's a propaganda war, where what's really happening on the ground is sometimes impossible to confirm. But this, not an illusion. The leader himself making a brief appearance in the capital. State television keen to send out the message, all is well. No matter the claims and counterclaims by both sides, the casualties continue to rise. This the local hospital in Ras Lanouf. Opposition forces were forced to retreat to the town after heavy fighting for control of Bin Jawad on the road to Gaddafi's hometown and stronghold of Sirte. Whether either side is making as much ground as it claims still remains very unclear. But it seems the propaganda mirrors the fighting. Libya is a divided country, and both sides are telling very different stories. Stephanie Decker, Al Jazeera.
Well, these were the scenes in Benghazi. 600 women gathered in the center of the city on Sunday to pray for the removal of Gaddafi. Outside a courthouse, they claimed he'd done nothing for the country over the past 40 years and had squandered the country's oil wealth. While calls from within Libya for international action are growing, a senior U.S. senator has warned that the presence of American ground troops in Libya would be counterproductive. But John Kerry, who chairs the Senate's Foreign Relations Committee, says the international community should make preparations for a no-fly zone in the event of a massacre of civilians by the Libyan Air Force.
1, prepare a no-fly zone in conjunction with our allies, not implement it. Certainly, first hope would be, if it were called on, to be done only in the context of international agreement and sanction. But right now, they don't want that, and I think that's good. The last thing we want to think about is any kind of military intervention, and I don't consider the fly zone stepping over that line. We don't want troops on the ground. They don't want troops on the ground. That would be counterproductive.
Truck drivers in Gaza are on an indefinite strike. They're protesting against Israel's permanent closure of the commercial Karni crossing on the north of the Strip. Now, this leaves the Kerem Abu Salam crossing in the south as the only way for goods to get in and out of Gaza. Nicole Johnston has more from Rafah.
here at Rafah, hundreds of Gaza's truck drivers are on strike. They've blocked the entrance to the Kerem Abu Salam crossing, and that means at the moment no supplies can get in and out of Gaza. Now they're striking because Israel has closed the Kani crossing, and the drivers are saying that they won't work until it reopens. Now, Kani used to be the main export and import point for Gaza, but when Hamas took over, Israel closed it, except for gravel and grain, and now Israel has shut it down completely.
Kani is a well-prepared crossing for security and infrastructure. It's cheaper, it's closer to the city, to the factories, to the warehouses and to the wholesalers. In addition, from the Israeli seaport to the crossing, it's only 35 to 40 kilometres. But Kerem Abu Salam is 3 times further than Kani, and its capacity is very limited. It's also more expensive.
Now, Israel says that it's closed the Kani crossing for security reasons and that it's expanding the capacity of the Kerem Abu Salam crossing. But for people in Gaza, that's not enough, and businessmen and drivers here, they don't believe Israel. They say that they had a perfectly good crossing in the first place that never should have been closed, and that this is in fact another attempt by Israel to tighten the siege. Nicole Johnston, Al Jazeera, Rafah.
At least 8 people have died in 2 separate attacks in Mexico's border city of Ciudad Juarez. Police officials say gunmen killed 3 men in a bar early on Sunday. 5 other bodies were found nearby. Authorities believe drug cartels are behind the attack. A 6.2 magnitude earthquake has shaken a northern region in Chile. Security cameras caught the moment the quake struck about 60 kilometers east of the port of Arica. Some buildings have been damaged, but there are no reports of injuries. Just days earlier, Chile marked the first anniversary of a magnitude 8.8 quake that killed more than 500 people. And one of the world's most active volcanoes has been putting on a show. Kaliwaya in the U.S. state of Hawaii has sent lava shooting 90 meters up into the air. Scientists have issued a warning about a possible hazardous eruption. No homes, though, are currently at risk. The trial of former French President Jacques Chirac begins on Monday. He's facing charges of corruption allegedly committed during his time as mayor of Paris. Tim Friend has the details.
In typical style, Jacques Chirac always insisted that he wanted to be treated like any other person facing trial. But that's unlikely to happen. The 78-year-old, one of France's longest-serving presidents, seems to grow in popularity with the French public, who view him with a particular fondness, the envy of other politicians. This is despite the fact that he's the first former head of state to face criminal charges since the Fifth Republic was founded half a century ago.
He is a man who sort of does the right thing at critical times. We've seen it politically at other times, like saying that France should not be involved in Iraq. We've seen it at times where he stood up for the rights of Parliament. And we saw it, of course, that he was very unequivocally against the Front National. And, that he stands as a statesman for that, I think, whatever his other faults.
He's now in fragile health. His wife, Bernadette, dismissed reports that he's suffering from Alzheimer's disease, but he may find a court appearance arduous. The abuse of public funds charges spring from his time as mayor of